Randal Keith Orton was born on April 1, 1980, in Knoxville, Tennessee, into a family steeped in professional wrestling tradition. Wrestling was in Randy's blood. His father, Cowboy Bob Orton, was a WWE Hall of Famer, and his grandfather, Bob Orton Sr., had been a notable figure in the wrestling world during the 1950s and 1960s. The Orton family's legacy in wrestling was undeniable, and the expectations placed on young Randy were immense from the moment he was born. Despite being surrounded by this illustrious wrestling heritage, Randy's childhood was far from easy. His father's wrestling career often kept him away from home, which meant Randy spent long stretches of time without a consistent paternal figure. His mother, Elaine, did her best to maintain stability, but with her husband constantly on the road, she had to navigate raising their children largely on her own. Randy, the eldest of 3 siblings, felt this pressure early on. Growing up, Randy was an active child who enjoyed sports, particularly amateur wrestling, which he pursued in high school. His athletic talent was evident, and he even earned praise from his coaches. However, the weight of the Orton family name followed him wherever he went. At Hazelwood Central High School in Missouri, Randy was known not only for his wrestling prowess, but also for his rebellious attitude. His peers and teachers described him as a talented but restless teenager. One of his high school wrestling coaches, in a 2010 interview, recalled, "Randy had all the talent in the world, but he had trouble following rules. There was a cockiness about him that could get in the way of his potential." In those formative years, Randy struggled to reconcile his desire to make his own way in the world with the shadow cast by his family's wrestling legacy. While many expected him to follow in the footsteps of his father and grandfather, Randy was determined to carve out his own identity, often leading to friction with authority figures and peers alike. After graduating from high school in 1998, Randy Orton didn't immediately pursue a wrestling career, as many assumed he would. Instead, in a surprising move, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. At the time, Randy was searching for discipline and structure, something he had lacked during his teenage years. However, his rebellious nature quickly clashed with the strict demands of military life. Randy's time in the Marines was marked by conflict. His aversion to authority, which had been a problem in high school, became even more pronounced in the military. He found it difficult to follow orders, and his superiors often described him as insubordinate. His time in the Marines came to an abrupt end in 1999 when he went AWOL twice and disobeyed a direct order from a commanding officer. These actions led to his court-martial and a subsequent bad conduct discharge. Orton served 38 days in a military prison at Camp Pendleton, a low point in his young life. Looking back on this period, Randy acknowledged that he wasn't ready for the responsibility that came with military service. In a 2009 interview, he reflected on his mistakes. "The Marines taught me a lot, mostly about consequences. I wasn't ready for that responsibility back then, but it's something that helped shape me." His military service may have ended in failure, but it was an important lesson in personal accountability and a moment that set the stage for his eventual growth. Interestingly, some of his fellow Marines would later recognize the potential Orton had, even if it wasn't meant for the military. One Marine, who followed Randy's WWE career, remarked years later, "Randy was a stubborn guy. No doubt about that, but you could tell there was something unique about him. He wasn't built for military life, but I'm not surprised he found success elsewhere." After his military discharge, Randy found himself at a crossroads. With no clear direction in his life, he returned home, where his father, Bob Orton, offered him guidance. Bob knew that his son had the talent and potential to make it in professional wrestling, but he also knew that Randy's lack of discipline could be his downfall. Despite their complicated relationship, Bob agreed to train Randy, pushing him hard in the process. Randy's training with his father was grueling, both physically and mentally. Bob Orton, a legend in the business, didn't pull any punches with his son. He wanted Randy to understand the sacrifices required to succeed in professional wrestling. In a 2004 interview, Bob explained his tough love approach. "I knew Randy had the ability, but he wasn't focused. I had to break him down, show him what it really meant to be a wrestler. If he wanted to follow in the family footsteps, he had to do it the right way." In 2000, Randy Orton's professional wrestling journey officially began when he signed with Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, WWE's developmental territory. OVW was the breeding ground for future WWE stars, and during Randy's time there, he shared the ring with wrestlers who would go on to become household names, including John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and Batista. This group would eventually be known as WWE's Class of 2002, producing some of the biggest stars in the industry. At OVW, Randy was under the guidance of trainers like Jim Cornette and Danny Davis, both of whom saw potential in the young Orton. Cornette, in particular, recognized Randy's natural ability in the ring but was concerned about his attitude. "Randy had all the tools to be a top guy," Cornette said in a 2013 interview. "He had the look, the athleticism, and the wrestling instinct. But he had a chip on his shoulder, and he didn't like being told what to do. We had to keep him in check." Despite his attitude issues, Randy excelled in the ring, showing a level of skill and understanding of wrestling psychology that was far beyond his years. It was clear that he had inherited the Orton family's wrestling genes, but his journey to becoming a WWE superstar would be anything but easy. Randy Orton made his WWE television debut in April 2002 on an episode of SmackDown. His first match saw him defeat Hardcore Holly, a veteran wrestler known for testing new talent. Orton's performance in the ring was solid, and his athleticism was undeniable. However, he was still green and had much to learn about the intricacies of being a WWE superstar. Orton's true breakthrough came in 2003 when he joined the faction known as Evolution, a group led by Triple H and Ric Flair that also included Batista. Evolution was designed to elevate young talent, and Randy was positioned as the future of WWE. With Triple H and Flair acting as mentors, Orton began to find his stride, not only as a wrestler but as a character. Triple H saw something special in Orton from the beginning. In a 2016 interview, he said, "Randy had all the natural gifts you could ask for. He just needed some guidance. Rick and I took him under our wing, and he soaked up everything like a sponge. He was young and cocky, but he had the potential to be one of the all-time greats." Ric Flair echoed those sentiments, saying in a 2015 interview, "Randy had that swagger that you can't teach. He had the look, the talent, and the name. It was just a matter of time before he became a star." With Evolution behind him, Randy Orton's star began to rise rapidly. His cocky, arrogant persona was the perfect fit for the group, and fans quickly took notice of the young talent. Orton's signature move, the RKO, became one of the most popular and devastating finishers in WWE, adding to his growing reputation. In August 2004, Randy Orton made history by becoming the youngest world heavyweight champion in WWE history at the age of 24, defeating Chris Benoit at SummerSlam. This victory cemented Orton's status as a top star in the company and marked the beginning of his long reign as one of WWE's premier talents. While Randy Orton's in-ring performances were stellar, his behavior outside the ring was a different story. Throughout the early 2000s, Orton developed a reputation for being difficult to work with backstage. His immaturity, combined with his rapidly growing ego, led to numerous incidents with fellow wrestlers and WWE management. One of the most infamous incidents occurred in 2003 when Orton defecated in a female co-worker's bag as a prank. The incident caused an uproar in the WWE locker room, with many veterans losing respect for Orton. WWE legend The Undertaker, in a 2017 interview, mentioned, "Randy was a kid back then, and he did some stupid things. But he learned from them. We all make mistakes. but the key is how you grow from them. Orton's attitude issues also led to multiple suspensions for unprofessional conduct, including violations of WWE's wellness policy, which focused on ensuring the health and safety of its performers. These suspensions created a perception that Randy was more trouble than he was worth, leading to tension within the locker room. Former WWE wrestler and commentator JBL reflected on this time, stating, "Randy had a lot of growing up to do. He was a kid living in a world of adults, and sometimes he didn't know how to handle it." Despite these controversies, Orton remained a major draw for WWE, showcasing his undeniable talent in the ring. His performances were often highlighted by his ability to connect with the audience, creating compelling storylines that drew fans in. However, the negative aspects of his personality were a constant reminder that he was still a work in progress. In 2006, Randy faced another setback when he was suspended for 60 days after violating the wellness policy once again. This time, it was a wake-up call for Orton. Reflecting on the suspension, he stated in a 2007 interview, "I had to look in the mirror and realize that if I didn't change my ways, I could lose everything I had worked for. I was on a path of self-destruction, and I knew I had to do something about it." A turning point. The years following his suspension marked a crucial turning point in Randy Orton's life and career. He recognized that he needed to make a change if he wanted to continue thriving in the wrestling business. As part of this transformation, he sought to improve his behavior both inside and outside the ring. This included making amends with some of his peers and taking steps to be a better colleague and performer. In interviews, Orton has often spoken about the importance of surrounding himself with positive influences. In a 2018 discussion, he stated, "I realized that I had to focus on the people I let into my life. I wanted to be around those who would support my growth and help me become the best version of myself." Randy's dedication to personal growth began to show through in his performances. He started to develop more complex characters and storylines, showcasing his ability to evolve as a performer. In a 2019 interview, WWE Hall of Famer Edge remarked, "Randy has a unique gift for storytelling in the ring. Once he figured out how to harness his energy and focus on his craft, he became one of the best in the business." With renewed focus, Orton reclaimed his place in the WWE hierarchy, capturing the WWE Championship once again in 2013. His dedication to improvement earned him the respect of his peers, and he began to forge new relationships within the locker room. Randy Orton's personal life also underwent significant changes during this period. He married his first wife, Samantha Spino, in 2007, and they welcomed their daughter, Alana Marie Orton, into the world in 2008. However, the couple's relationship faced challenges due to the demands of Orton's wrestling career and his previous behavior. In 2013, Randy and Samantha divorced, and Orton found himself at another crossroads. During this time, he started to reflect on the importance of family and the values he wanted to instill in his daughter. He began dating his current wife, Kim Kessler, and they married in 2015. Together, they have 2 children, a son named Forrest and a daughter named Brooklyn. Randy's commitment to being a better father was evident as he made a conscious effort to balance his career with family life. In a 2017 interview, he expressed the importance of being present for his children. "I want to be there for them in ways I couldn't be when I was growing up. I want to show them what love and support look like, and that's my top priority." The legend killer and evolution of his character. Randy Orton's character evolved significantly during his time in WWE, particularly with the legend killer persona. This evolution allowed him to explore different facets of his character while showcasing his wrestling talent. As the legend killer, Orton targeted established stars and legends, often using mind games and psychological tactics to get into his opponents' heads. This era in Randy's career was characterized by iconic rivalries with wrestling legends such as Mick Foley, The Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels. In 2005, he infamously defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania 21, solidifying his status as a top heel in WWE. After the match, he was praised for his ability to tell stories through his performances. In a 2016 interview, Undertaker stated, "Randy had an incredible knack for making you believe in the story we were telling. He could get into your head and make it real." Randy's transformation into the Legend Killer solidified his position as a top-tier performer in the company. It was during this time that he began to take on a more mature attitude, utilizing his past experiences to inform his character work. The shift allowed him to connect with fans on a deeper level, and his popularity surged. The Apex Predator Randy Orton later transitioned into the Apex Predator character, a moniker that emphasized his status as one of the most dangerous wrestlers in WWE. This character change saw him embrace a more ruthless and calculated approach, focusing on his methodical wrestling style and ability to outsmart opponents. His iconic RKO move became synonymous with his Apex Predator persona, and the catchphrase "out of nowhere" became part of wrestling lore. Orton's ability to execute the RKO with precision and timing captivated audiences and added to his mystique in the ring. In a 2020 interview, WWE legend Kane remarked, "Randy's RKO is one of the most electrifying finishers in wrestling history. He knows exactly when to pull it out, and the crowd always responds to it. He has this ability to make every moment feel special."